Hi, I'm Ken Steele, host of 10 with Ken. Our team recently went on site to the University of Waterloo to profile its Velocity Garage. If you haven't watched or listened to the full episode, please check it out on any of a dozen channels where you might be watching this video. Our day included interviews with dynamic young entrepreneurs about their startup companies, their amazing new products, and of course their experience with Velocity. Since these young entrepreneurs were so generous with their time, we thought we should share more of their interviews with you than we could squeeze into the one episode. Here's our full interview with Ian Tao, founder and CEO of Sesame.
It's Ian Tao. I'm from Sesame.
And your title?
I'm founder and CEO.
Thank you for taking time out of your busy morning to talk with us. How would you describe what Sesame does?
We're seeing a trend away from standardized testing and more about assessing ongoing experience and competencies. For schools, this is a challenge because how do we collect all forms of student work, artifacts, feedback? Portfolio traditionally is kind of a highlight reel, but Sesame helps them build a living visual record of student competencies.
I watched with some interest a product called FreshGrade that's being tested out in Surrey. How's Sesame different than FreshGrade?
Right. We actually get this question a lot in two main ways. So first, FreshGrade focuses a lot on parent engagement, where Sesame is focused on the curriculum and assessment. We're focused on helping teachers assessing students by their skills and kind of demonstrating how they meet competency and standards. And second is that we're actually focused on higher ed. So that's 2-year and 4-year post-secondary, as well as K-12. So for example, parent engagement is less of a topic in higher education, as you might imagine, where it was helping the institutions with accreditation, program review, self-studies, demonstrating competency. So for example, in health sciences, they are working a lot in simulation labs where for nurse, so my partner is occupational therapist, for example, she was examined by things like what's your technique to transfer patient from wheelchair to bed? What's your bedside manner? How do you find the vein when you draw the blood? These are all things that you can't just quiz. You actually have to do it. The same goes for performing arts, for engineering, architecture, hospitality. So that's why it's more popular there. But we are seeing more programs that are kind of thinking towards the future, where it's not going to be knowledge-based, it's actually going to be skill and competency-based. So we're starting to get some interest from business programs, and things like that you typically wouldn't think would be, but it's the ones that are forward-thinking, that are thinking ahead. So for each program, there's actually standardized requirements, the skills that they must have. Right. So if you're graduating as a mechanical engineer from anywhere in Canada, right, you're supposed to have the same set of skills. Right now, schools are tasked to document any evidence of their work, any feedback, any evaluation over their entire career. So these are a lot of written work are easy, but what about lab work? Like say in the nursing health science example, they have videos of student techniques, photos of the lab layout, sanitation and things like that. What do you do after every course? You have hundreds of videos for every student. So these are kind of things that Sesame makes very easy to document as it happens, as well as evaluate using rubrics, checklists, the feedback interaction. All of that is documented on Sesame, so that we can create these living student records that are tracked by these standardized skills as well as the student's portfolio.
Where's the name come from? Is there a story behind it?
Right. It's not Sesame Street, as many people would first guess. It's actually Open Sesame. So we came into Sesame with the student's perspective, which is school sometimes feels like a black box. A student goes in and transcript and grades come out. The process isn't really emphasized and doesn't seem very transparent at times. So we wanted something to really demonstrate the process and show how learning happens, not just the grade at the end. Right. So Open Sesame was the intent.
Yeah, I get the sense across the country that there's definitely a movement away from this focus on high-stakes testing and examination scores and boiling everything down to a percentage or a number. Exactly. It isn't constructive kind of formative assessment. It is summative. There we go. Which stage are you in at the Velocity program?
We're stage 3, and we've actually recently transitioned out, so that half our team is in Toronto.
Yeah. Things are rolling then. I noticed Sesame's doing work with Niagara College. Are there other post-secondaries you're working with right now?
Yep. University of Waterloo, for example, is actually one of our partners. There's schools like Fanshawe College, Humber College, a lot of their practical programs use Sesame. As a matter of fact, at Laurier and Brock University, their Faculty of Ed uses Sesame as part of the curriculum to train teacher candidates. It's using all, but it's definitely more popular among STEM and hands-on programs.
How did you first get involved with the Velocity program at Waterloo?
I actually didn't become involved as a student, which is how I think most people, part of the residents and came to Velocity. I discovered Velocity after I graduated. I applied to the Velocity Finals Fund with Sesame. Unfortunately, I actually never won the venture, but I was able to make enough progress and convince them that, this is worth a shot and allow me into the garage. So, through the alumni network, I knew a lot of people that were already in Velocity, so I already knew that this is something that I really want to be a part of.
What was it you'd heard about Velocity that made you want to be part of it?
I guess I personally knew a lot of the founders in here. These are people I went to school with. So for companies like Thalmic, Bufferbox, these are all people that came out of the same program in mechatronics that I did. So these are kind of the role models that we've always heard about during school. They always spoke of Velocity as very instrumental in their progress and success. So that's why it was so inspirational, to kind of go after them as role models.
What's the most important thing about being in the garage?
So I know people always talk about, the people, the community, and I want to give specific examples, not just kind of abstract. The community is great. So for example, for the first time ever, I was trying to figure out what's our financial projection a few months ago. And I need to understand cash flow, understand profit versus loss, and I was Googling results, but they're not that helpful. But a benefit of being in the garage, there's a company next to me who's 6 months to a year ahead of me. So I just physically grabbed the founder who just did this 6 months ago, and they were able to help me get this done and get an understanding very, very, very quickly, as opposed to me stuck in my office at home or wherever it may be, trying to Google these things and figure that out. So, and this is something that's pretty recent to us, so that's why it was super impactful to physically grab someone who was me 6 months ago.
I mean, is that what happened? You graduated from your program and you said, I want to be an entrepreneur?
That's a great, thank you for bringing this up. So I was actually originally going to go to McGill for performing arts for violin. I've been playing violin for 15 years. Both my parents are engineers and kind of convinced me to take a try at this co-op thing. Because they say, you can be a musician on the side, but you can't really do engineering on the side. So came out of high school thinking, okay, great, I'll try this thing. But all of my study has been focused on arts. Came into Waterloo, it completely changed my trajectory. It's in hindsight, it's amazing how different my life would have planned out if I hadn't come to Waterloo. So during my time here, I've done 6 co-op terms as part of the curriculum at Waterloo Engineering. I spent all 6 at technology startups. The largest company I've ever worked at had 20 people at the time.
And were they startups in Velocity or were they startups around the city?
Right. Some of them actually were. So I worked at companies like ClearPath Robotics, Arion Labs, CrossChasm. I would say almost half the company I worked at was started by Waterloo alumni. And these are all working at a cutting edge technology at a very startup phase. So I came out of Waterloo, in my last year thinking about what is it I want to do going forward. I just reflected back on the experience I've had during co-op at these other startups. So entrepreneurship wasn't really this novel, alternative that I considered. That was my experience at Waterloo. During school, during co-op term, it just keep reinforcing that because I can see myself, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. And that was extremely motivating. So that's why when I came out of Waterloo Engineering, there wasn't option ABC. It was just, how do I want to solve, what problem do I want to solve with the skills I've gained? And how do I go about that? There was never an option of weighing between, do I go get a big corporate job or do I do a startup or entrepreneurship? That was my experience at Waterloo. So that was the only thing I thought about.
The co-op program is what makes Waterloo distinct among Canadian universities in a lot of ways. And I guess what you're saying is the co-op program is almost like a farm team to prep you for the Velocity program, for sort of prepare you to think entrepreneurially?
I wouldn't necessarily say it prepares me for Velocity. I think Velocity is another resource that University of Waterloo provides, along with co-op, that prepares students to take on whatever challenge they choose to, and kind of expose us to those opportunities. Velocity definitely isn't the final destination. It's another resource at different stages of the company and students' career.
Pretty sure we're out of time now. It was a good answer. It was a great answer.
10 with Ken is a production of Eduvation Inc., copyright 2017.
I'm available for conference keynotes, campus PD events, board retreats, and committee workshops, in person or now virtually too. For more information, please visit www.eduvation.guru or 10withken.com.